Hey, in this video I want to show you a different way that you can use the HD stencils. On some videos I've showed you, how to spray through the stencil and paint something quick, and that is helpful sometimes. But sometimes you might just want to have fun with the painting, like that's what I want to do right now. I have some jobs I gotta get done, but at the same time, I want to paint. I want to do it for myself, and I want to have fun. And I'll be painting this train, uh, black and white painting on this guitar body. The entire guitar is black. All the all the pieces are black, so I'm not gonna change the color. And I'm gonna try blending this in. This one is really complicated. It's really complicated. I might have covered myself with the paper. It has a lot of lines, and it's very difficult. I'm not gonna go photorealistic. I just I wanna I wanna do this job and wanna have some fun into it. I could easily get it done with the HD stencil. It wouldn't take me more than what 2-3 hours at most. And but I wanna do it by I wanna do a lot more freehand. So what I'll do is I'll use the HD stencil as a mapping tool rather than something to create everything. I'll put the HD stencil, size 4 by the way, and I'll spray a light coat of black. And I would also do a white coat, a coat of white color on the guitar body so that the HD stencil works. I just want to show you, uh, for the most part the painting will be freehand, and if something useful comes out of this process, I want to record it and show you. Hopefully you find it valuable. Hopefully it becomes helpful. That's the point of making a video, right? That it can help you in some way. The HD stencil, I might come back to the painting if I get lost. I want to do this for fun. I don't want to stress myself out. So they say painting is therapeutic. I don't know if I said that word right, but it relaxes you, makes you feel happy when you're painting, and that's what I want to do on this guitar. So like I said, this is not gonna be a perfect painting. I'm gonna get it as close as possible to the picture, but I'm gonna let it happen. Sometimes some paintings you just gotta let them happen. At the end they come out good anyways. To mix my white, I use Wicked Opaque White and Wicked Detail Umber, Burnt Umber, together with some Inner Cut Clear and Reducer. And this is to spray the guitar's body on the area that I'll be painting the train. Then to start mapping out the train, I use a size 4 stencil. This is a custom stencil, so you're not gonna find it on the store, but I lightly sprayed black. This is not full black, it's a reduced black, and this is how it looks like. From there it's a very clear map on where I can go ahead and keep painting. One thing to notice here is that eventually the white that I put down will bleed through into the black, so it will make it even more faint. So keep that in mind. Alright, to begin painting the train, I'm constantly referring back to the reference picture, and that's why you can see on the video there is the reference picture to the upper left corner. I'm looking for the darker values. I know a lot of times you're supposed to work from light to dark and leaving the pure blacks for later, but on this picture it worked for me so that I could go full black first, and then build the values in between. So
I would think that idea of going from light to dark will depend on the pictures. But another thing I'm doing is staying only on the front circle of the train. And the tool I'm using there is called a deep pen. With that one, I'm going to outline a lot of the tubes and a lot of the dark areas. Some of those lines that I'm doing have a hard edge, completely dark, and then it blends into other tones, into other values. So this tool was very useful for me on painting this train because of how because of the many crisp lines that this has. I wouldn't want to do that 100% airbrush. It would take me forever and it wouldn't look good. So if you have never seen that tool before, it's a calligraphy tool, but it's really good for doing this sort of thing. What I like about it is that you can change the tips, and that I can use my regular airbrush colors with it. So I'm placing all the darker, like the purest black values, and because I'm so early in the stage of painting this, I'm lost on the painting, so I'm being very slow. I'm painting very slow. I'm looking constantly at the picture and placing those dark values there. That is doing a few things. First of all, is it's building the picture and it's building the painting, and the second thing is I'm creating I like to call it an anchor point. So by that I mean I finished this part. Not 100% finished, but I do a lot of work to this part until it looks like something recognizable, and from there I start spreading around, so that way I know I'm not getting lost in the painting. Everything that I'm doing, I am basically looking at the picture and judging, okay, this black goes here, because even though I have the stencil lines, the stencil ghost image, once you're painting and you put some paint into the surface, you cover those details, and they are really hard to tell. They are really hard to judge. For example, that plate that I'm painting right now, when I started doing those black dots, all I was looking at was areas with full black, really dark areas, and I wasn't even realizing that I was painting some knots, because when you are in the painting, sometimes you can't tell what shape it is, and rather you got to start looking at values. So I was looking for the darkest values. That was sort of like my filter, in my eyes. I was looking at the darker values, and then I was going to worry about everything else. Rather than trying to do everything at once, I was doing one thing at a time. As you see, I moved from the deep pen to a brush, and that also works, but I must tell you that the deep pen has an advantage that is much easier to do fine lines with it than the brush. So now that I have some lines with the brush and the deep pen, I come with the airbrush and I start building the values in between. So, like for example, those nuts, they have an area that is a hard edge with black, but then they have sort of a shadow. So with the airbrush, I'm doing that. And my black, as you can tell, it's very reduced. It has inner cut clear, as well as reducer, and you want to try to stay away from putting straight black through the airbrush, because even though you can blend it, you will go too black too quick. And by having the color very reduced like that, very transparent, you're also able to create texture sometimes where you need it. So please notice that I'm staying only in one area. The reason why I did that is because in my mind it was making more sense. Okay, if I finish this, I'm gonna feel like, okay, I got one foot in the painting, I got one foot inside now, so I can take the next step. So it's sort of like a psychological thing, rather than spreading thin throughout the whole painting and doing lines and everything and never getting anywhere. So I would like to do this in real time, but it would be impossible. This painting was about 15 hours, and trust me, you will get really bored if you saw me doing this real time. So those nuts, I'm just airbrushing a shadow underneath, and it's everything is the same. Everything is the same in the sense that I'm looking at the picture, seeing where the darker values are, then doing some hard edges with the brush and pen, and softening those edges with the airbrush. And it's basically that. And in that sense, this picture was easy, but it was very difficult in the sense that it had a lot of elements, a lot of lines. Like if you look at the picture, it has tubing, hoses, some stuff that you cannot even tell what it is. It's part of the machine. But when I'm painting it, I'm not looking and I say, okay, this is a hose, this is a railing, or anything like that. I just say, okay, this is pure black, and from there it serves me as a landmark, and I shade it according to what I see on the picture. And another thing about this painting is that I could say it's very impressionistic. I'm not going perfectly photorealistic. I'd rather it looks like the photo, but it has some of my interpretation in it, which is much faster to paint than copying the picture exactly. So at this point, I'm almost ready to start spreading from here. All right, so I'm ready to start moving away from where I started, and I want you to notice at my pattern. I think I already said it, but I'm gonna tell you again. The pattern is, other than doing the stencil to map things out, my pattern is outlining, shading, and then bringing highlights afterwards. That's a simple 3-step pattern. I'm not coming up with new techniques or nothing fancy. If anything, this is a project that is very laborious, if I could even say it like that, in the sense that it takes a lot of work. It's not difficult to create the shapes, but it takes a lot of observation to the reference picture, and but it's not that difficult. The only thing is that it takes a lot of observation, but that would be with any painting. Right there, the stairs of the train, I'm only outlining them, but I'm not gonna finish them because the hardware of the guitar goes there, so it will cover those details. But still, I do the lines just to have something to connect to on the other parts that will be visible. As you can see, I'm using a lot of deep pen for these lines, and the nice thing about deep pens is that they have a lot of different tips, some that are flexible, some that are hard, and you can do all kinds of lines with them. So everything, all this shading that I'm doing there is not final. It's only kind of like a placeholder. I'm looking at the picture and making sure that I'm shading where I'm supposed to, but I'm not trying to get it done in the first pass. And like I said earlier, it's important for the color to be transparent, or else you don't get the many different textures and the many different values that are visible on the picture. And like other artists say also, is that you gotta build your dark tones slowly. For example, you see I went straight to the black, but then on the other values, I came back. Like you can see here, I came back and darkened them gradually rather than just doing it in one pass. So I'm combining, different things that I know. So that is the advice, to not be scared of experimenting on your own projects. Um, that is something that is normal with painting. Um, there are a lot of people teaching courses that are workshops that are very useful, and they are very helpful. But when you're painting on your own paintings, you should also try to overcome any challenges that might come up, and uh, trying to find a way. If you don't know how to do something, trying to find a way. Always go back to your basics. For example, the values will be the one of the most basic things. So, and for something black and white like this train, I only let myself go out of that, out of looking at values. And another thing is, don't be afraid to to go out of the box, if you wanna, if you know what I mean. In the sense that it doesn't need to look like the picture all the time. It's okay to make it look different. It's okay, either if you do it on purpose, or if you do it depending on your skill level. It's okay. And the most important thing is to finish one painting. If you are always starting paintings but never finishing them, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to see what actual results you can produce. So you should give yourself the opportunity to to see the kind of things that you're able to produce. Um, any painting, for any painting, um, what you need to do is to have a lot of perseverance working on it. And because the first few hours of painting something, the painting doesn't look like much. It's only after the entire thing starts coming out together, that you start looking at the results that you get. So don't quit on a painting too early when you start it, because sometimes it's not that you are a bad painter, it's just that you didn't give yourself enough time to keep going. So that is one thing that I could advise someone that is a beginner. And also have the right tools. For example, on this painting, I decided to use a micron with a 0.18 needle setup. That's because that is the best airbrush that I could use for this painting, because it allows me to get really not only lines, but focus the spray pattern on a very small area without having to be so close to the surface, because I don't really like to get so close. I just feel uncomfortable. It sort of like limits my speed. But as you can see, I'm still going section by section, and like I said in the beginning, I'm repeating this process. Why? That is because I found it to be efficient for this painting. Same process, like I said, outlining and then shading, and towards the end I will come back with the eraser. But now I want you to look at the front of the front of the train. There you can see that the entire front has been finished, and it really looks like something. It looks like that part of the train came out already. So at this point I was feeling more confident on doing this painting, more relaxed, because it at least for me that's how it goes on a painting. I feel more pressure towards the beginning, but once you start sort of carving it out, you start actually feeling in control of what you're doing, and it feels very, you feel more relaxed when you're working. To repeat myself again, I'm using transparent colors, transparent black, and the best thing about using very weak colors like that is that uh, if you do a stroke in a wrong place, it's not such a big deal. But if, let's say, if I was using full strength black, and I do a mistake, and I do a dagger stroke in an area that I shouldn't, then I'll have more work to fix that. And the paintings don't look very dynamic either. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to the sanded eraser. With this eraser, I'm erasing very lightly, and I'm pulling out some highlights. Uh, Also on this area here, I'm doing the highlights where the sun is shining on those cables, and deepening the shadows with the full black. And by having that little difference in values, it shows like there is something there. Some pieces of the machine are there. Also with the knife, I'm pulling out some other crisper lines. So the upper part has been finished, and like I said, the more parts I finish, the more comfortable I feel at that point, because you feel like you have made a lot of progress. Um, from there, it's a lot easier to continue and finish a painting, uh, as opposed to when you are just beginning the painting, which it feels like very difficult, to be honest. But still chipping through with the outlines and the same process. So just did the outlines with the dipping pen, and shading again with the transparent black. To do this shading, at this point, the image transfer that I did with the HD stencil, it sort of disappeared already. At this point is basically the structure that I built, and looking at the picture constantly. That's how I'm able to continue working. And it's nothing new to that. That's how we paint a lot of times, only looking at the picture. And looking for the most prominent details, like any buckle on the metal, like in that gas tank on the bottom. It looks like there's a small buckle, and put in the right values, the right textures. For example, that gas tank has something like, looks like the it's polished metal, and the sun is shining on it. and the optical illusion comes out better when you finish the entire painting. uh, if you were to separate any of those areas by themselves, it would look like a lot of scribbles and wouldn't look like anything. But that is one of the nice things about completing a painting, that if you look at it, look at different areas isolated, they are pretty much a mess. But then all that put together, it looks into something very, very good. So right here, I sort of completely lost the outline and I was getting really lost. So I decided to place back the stencil and reestablish some areas so that I can keep working. Towards the final stretch, you feel like you want to finish quickly, and rather than looking at the picture, I decided going back to the stencil. Let me just mention really quick that when I sprayed the HD stencil, I sprayed it really lightly. But if you wanted to speed up things, you can spray the HD stencil much darker. You don't need to do it 100%, but if you do it much darker, you'll be able to paint on top of that much faster. There you get the best of both worlds. If you are doing some sort of painting, but still you want it to look painterly like and not like stencil looking, you can use that towards your advantage in some projects. So right here, I'm just doing the finishing touches, basically reviewing the entire picture and deepening shadows whenever I need them, and doing some more highlights with the eraser. Sometimes with the eraser, you don't actually do highlights, but instead I also use it to remove overspray from areas that I might have gotten some overspray. And right there, I'm darkening everything, making sure that it looks right. You see some areas in between the bridges are not finished. That's because they will be covered. And towards the end, on the front part, it was very like a very flat piece of metal, so it doesn't have a lot of different shading, but what it does have is a lot of different elements, hoses and the grill underneath. So those details like that can be more challenging sometimes because there is not a lot of contrast or a lot of definition to it. All right, so we are almost done, and this is the final part of the video before we get into the final pictures. This is very important because I go over the entire painting. Besides doing the smoke up there, I go over the entire painting and deepening some more shadows and erasing some other areas, cleaning them up, making them look, sharpening some edges. That's basically what I'm doing. It's sort of an overview to the painting. So, this is the final polishing I will give it. So I'm looking for those little extra things that I need to do. The structure is already there. The paint is already down. So it doesn't take me a lot of time to go over the entire painting, cleaning some of those bars where the sun is shining, and getting rid of some extra lines back there because they are too hard, lifting up some other edges and that sort of thing. Another thing I did as well was to finish the smoke on the side, just very lightly, adding some shadows to the smoke, and also tying up the entire image by darkening all around it. Because at the end, the customer wanted this guitar to still be black, So that's why I exaggerated some of the colors in the train as well, so that it matches with the guitar's body black, and also with the neck of the guitar, and you get the idea. So at this point is basically going over different areas and touching them up. With the stencil, there are some people on the stencil that are sort of standing by the train station, so I added them, and purely stencil work. I spray them there, and it adds a little bit more life to the painting. All right, so we are finally here. This is the final results. There are a few pictures in different lightings so that you can have a better idea how the entire job came out. Once it has been put together again, it looks really good with the hardware and strings again. So in my opinion, this one came out very nice, and by having it as a monotone painting, black and white, it really works with the rest of this guitar. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was informational in some way. Thank you very much for watching. Consider subscribing to the channel, and until next video, thank you very much.